of what appeared to be alien spacecraft at depth under the water.
I think we've got technology, bits and pieces, maybe an entire craft or more than one craft from somewhere else.
Just now, NASA found secret UFO tech deep in the ocean. NASA's latest project is an engine shaped like a UFO that runs on seawater. This wild invention could totally change flying, making it way faster and smoother. It looks like a flying saucer. Maybe it's a hint that we've got UFO secrets lurking under the ocean. What if we're cracking alien codes to turbocharge our tech? You'll think aliens are real after this video. The mysterious mechanics of UFO propulsion. NASA is currently exploring new propulsion technologies, and it's possible that these could already be in use by alien civilizations that may be visiting our planet. While this idea might seem unlikely to some, my research into these sightings, along with reliable reports backed by military tools like radar, brings up a lot of questions. Why are these events happening, and what are the intentions of the crafts that remain unidentified? What we discovered next might change everything, but that's a revelation for later. In the mysterious realm of unidentified flying objects, a curious pattern has emerged. These enigmatic crafts are frequently observed over bodies of water, particularly along coastlines. Naval ships, conducting routine patrols and outfitted with sophisticated surveillance technologies, often report these sightings. In notable incidents, such as the Tic-Tac UFO encounters, witnesses describe not only the airborne objects, but also suggest the presence of a larger vessel submerged beneath the waves, with smaller crafts darting just above the water's surface. But why are these possible visitors from other worlds so interested in our oceans? Could it be that they are using the water as a way to hide? Or maybe they are collecting marine samples, possibly for some kind of exhibit far away from Earth. Another idea is that there is something in our oceans that they find useful. After all, the thought of using the ocean for new ways of propulsion isn't a new concept and could be very beneficial for visitors like these. Some researchers believe that certain oceanic areas could be ideal hiding spots because of their depth and size, offering plenty of places to remain out of sight. Others think that our oceans might have materials or conditions that are helpful for these visitors, perhaps even something related to their technology or energy needs. This could explain why these encounters often involve movements that seem beyond our current understanding of physics, like sudden changes in speed or direction. If their technology is far more advanced, it might also rely on elements or materials that are more easily found in our oceans. Let's uncover the real purpose behind these advanced technologies: UFOs and Earth's mysteries. But the real mystery is yet to be solved. What are these crafts truly after? Are they studying our planet, or do they have some other purpose we haven't yet figured out? Every new sighting adds another layer to the mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers. And as long as these sightings continue, we will keep wondering what is really happening above and below the surface of our planet. NASA recently decided to invest more money into a technology called magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion. This method uses a powerful magnetic field to push a fluid filled with charged particles out from the back of a spacecraft, which makes it move forward. It's a bit like some other space propulsion ideas that have been suggested before, which also use charged particles and magnetic fields to create motion. Salt water is a good choice for this kind of technology because it already has charged particles naturally. The recollection of the late 1970s brings to mind a time spent in a special program designed for advanced students in Colorado. It was here that the principles of conductivity were first introduced. The lessons emphasized that plain water in its natural state is a poor conductor of electricity. However, when a substance is dissolved into water, it breaks down into charged particles, transforming the water into a conductive medium. Such a fluid, now capable of carrying electric currents, allows for the utilization of magnetic fields to generate propulsion, a concept that marveled the students and sparked an enduring fascination with the wonders of science. But the idea of magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion isn't just limited to water. It might even work in the air. To make it work best in the air, the design would need to have the right aerodynamic shape to be as efficient as possible. The performance is quite engaging, focusing on what seems to be an unidentified flying object. Let's discuss some photos that supposedly came from the USS Trang, pronounced just as it sounds, which is also known as SSN 674. These pictures were taken back in March of 1971 and later shared by the Black Vault. Here's what we've learned about these photos. First, they were taken from a U.S. Navy submarine. The location was somewhere between Iceland and John Mayen Island in the Atlantic Ocean. This island is under Norwegian control and has a small population, mostly made up of people from the Norwegian Meteorological Institute and a few military personnel. These pictures were captured in March 1971. The submarine in question was indeed the USS Trang, a well-known vessel. At the time, the commanding officer was Admiral Dean Reynolds Sackett, though there isn't much information available about his background. The crew came across this strange object unexpectedly while on a mission that had both military and scientific purposes. The first person to spot this unusual sight was Officer John Clea, who managed to photograph it using the submarine's periscope. There is a record confirming that a sailor named John Clea was indeed aboard the USS Trang. But whether these photos and the story around them are real is still being debated. The Black Vault has not provided many details, and the Pentagon hasn't said anything about it yet. If these photos are part of some kind of hoax, it would be helpful to have an official statement to clear things up instead of leaving everyone guessing. But this isn't even the most confusing part. Let's dive into the topic of magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion, which, as mentioned earlier, is a real technology. Next, we'll see how these technologies are already changing our world. The unheard journey of MHD propulsion. This technology is quite interesting. Magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion, often shortened to MHD, is a method of moving ships and submarines using the principles of magnetism and electricity. Instead of using a propeller, this system relies on powerful magnets and electric currents to push water or other fluids out of the back of the vehicle, propelling it forward. This approach can potentially make vehicles move faster and more quietly than traditional methods. For more than 50 years, scientists have been looking into the idea of using water to power submarines, removing the need for the usual propellers and complicated machinery that goes with them. These parts can often break down, and they also make noise that underwater detection systems can easily pick up. Interestingly, in Tom Clancy's novel, the fictional submarine Red October uses a similar technology called a magneto-hydrodynamic drive. This drive makes the submarine almost impossible to detect while also being simple and effective. But this technology isn't just useful underwater. It could also work in the air. To see how it might work, imagine the air around a flying craft being turned into plasma by using high-voltage electricity or powerful energy sources like microwaves or lasers. Plasma is a state of matter that can be controlled by electromagnetic fields. By manipulating the plasma, the craft creates thrust or push, similar to how an airplane wing creates lift by changing the pressure around it. Aircraft that make use of this technology tend to have a particular shape, like a rounded or saucer-like design. This shape helps with airflow and lift, making the idea of a flying saucer more practical for these advanced propulsion methods. The rounded shape ensures that the craft interacts with the air in the best way possible, helping it to stay stable and move quickly. While the design offers many benefits, it's not without its own set of challenges. For example, creating and maintaining the plasma requires a lot of energy, and handling such high levels of electricity safely is no small feat. Let's take a closer look at the air-based external flow MHD magneto-hydrodynamic drive. This type of system works together with an internal flow MHD drive. The internal drive uses a charged liquid that moves quickly inside the vehicle and is pushed out through a nozzle, much like how a regular rocket engine works. But let's first focus on how the external flow MHD drive works with the air around it. One of its main benefits is how efficiently it uses air. It can control the flow of air so well that it greatly reduces the bow shock, the sudden change in air pressure that happens in front of an object moving at high speeds. With this type of drive, it might be possible to achieve hypersonic speeds without creating a sonic boom. In other words, it could make an aircraft very quiet and hard to detect, which could help explain why people have reported seeing UFOs move at super fast speeds without the usual loud noise. Now, let's explore the quiet power behind these fast-moving crafts. Breakthroughs in propulsion technology. This ability to move fast and quietly matches many reports of unidentified flying objects that seem to zip across the sky without making much noise. The technology behind these drives, both the internal and external types, represents a big step forward in how we think about propulsion systems. It might even resemble some of the technologies reported in unexplained aerial phenomena. These drives give us a glimpse into a future where traveling at incredible speeds may not always create those disruptive sonic booms, changing how we think about both air travel and the study of mysterious sightings in the sky. Many pilots have tried to match the speed of these aircraft, and what's interesting is that because they use ionized plasma, they often light up. This glow is especially noticeable at night, making these flying saucers look like bright, glowing objects in the sky. This helps explain why they often seem to shine so brightly when people spot them after dark. The technology that powers these aircraft is truly impressive. It allows them to reach extremely high speeds, even faster than the speed of sound, without causing a sonic boom. Unlike traditional planes, this type of propulsion doesn't need complex jet engines or lots of moving parts. It also doesn't produce a lot of heat or noise. But it does create a unique glow at night, which makes them even more fascinating to see. But the most exciting part comes when we think about how this technology could be used for space travel. This is something NASA is already looking into. Moving from flying in our atmosphere to exploring the vastness of space could bring about huge changes in how we think about and carry out space exploration. Imagine a spacecraft that uses a new kind of engine called a magnetic hydrodynamic MHD drive. This special system not only moves the spacecraft through space, but also creates air that the crew can breathe. Let's see how it works in simpler terms. First, you need to load a propellant or fuel into the spacecraft. In space, there is no air, so you can't use airflow to create lift and speed like you would with an airplane on Earth. Instead, you use a different method with an ionized liquid, basically just seawater, and a strong magnetic field. Here's how the process goes. Inside the spacecraft, seawater is prepared to become ionized, which means it's charged by dissolving salt in it. This way, you don't need a lot of extra energy to keep it ionized because it's already ready to go. The magnetic field then pushes this charged seawater out of the back of the spacecraft, similar to how a regular rocket engine works. But the cool thing here is that it's using seawater as the charged fluid. When the seawater is pushed out, it creates the thrust needed to propel the spacecraft forward. At the same time, a chemical reaction happens that produces hydrogen and oxygen. This does two important things. It helps the spacecraft move, and it creates air for the crew to breathe. So, the MHD drive does double duty, providing both movement and life support in the emptiness of space. Imagine a spaceship that travels through space much faster than anything we've ever seen. This isn't just any spaceship. It uses a special kind of rocket power called fusion propulsion. Fusion is like the power source of the sun. It works by squeezing hydrogen atoms together so tightly that they combine into helium, which releases a huge amount of energy. This energy pushes the spaceship forward, allowing it to cover vast distances in a much shorter time. Join us as we look at how these new engines could revolutionize space travel, navigating the vast unknown. Instead of taking 10 years to reach Titan, one of Saturn's moons, a spaceship with fusion propulsion could make the trip in just 2 years. This technology converts the energy from fusion directly into motion, avoiding extra steps that other engines require. As a result, the spaceship is lighter and the journey is much faster. The real magic of fusion propulsion is its efficiency. It can create a lot of power with just a small amount of fuel. This means the spaceship can carry less fuel and more supplies or scientific tools. Plus, fusion energy is clean and doesn't produce the harmful waste that traditional rocket fuels do. But here's the tricky part. Making fusion work properly is really hard. It requires extremely high temperatures, even hotter than the center of the sun. And it also needs to keep a super hot cloud of gas, called plasma, from touching any part of the engine. To do this, scientists use strong magnets to hold the plasma in place, but it's a delicate balance to keep everything stable. Yet despite the challenges, the rewards of getting fusion propulsion right are enormous. Faster trips would allow astronauts to explore farther parts of our solar system. They could set up bases on distant moons or planets, study their surfaces closely, and maybe even discover signs of life. But that's not the most exciting part. As we continue to improve fusion technology, we might see even more spaceships launching to explore the unknown. Each one could carry humans or robots to new worlds, bringing back incredible discoveries and stories. This technology could completely change how we explore space and what we learn about our universe. Each mission would help us learn more about our place in the cosmos. But here's the tricky part: generating the required energy. To make it work, you would need at least a fusion reactor, or perhaps something even more advanced, like an antimatter reactor, far into the future. The real challenge is having enough energy to keep the magnetic field stable. This field is essential because it makes continuous propulsion possible, allowing for long-distance travel in space. Let's talk about how effective propulsion can be when using a lot of force and getting a strong push from something as simple as ionized water or even just plain salt water. As the fuel supply gets low, challenges start to appear, so it's important to use the available fuel wisely while traveling through the vastness of space. But here's an interesting twist. Even when you think you're out of fuel, there could still be hope. You might be able to use particles floating around in interplanetary or interstellar space, pulling them into your spacecraft with a special device called a Bussard ramjet, or a Bussard scoop. However, this method isn't perfect. These particles are few and far between, especially in the regions between stars. So, to avoid running out of fuel, it's a good idea to refill with salt water whenever possible. This could be why some believe that spacecraft might visit our oceans frequently to get more fuel. And that's how this propulsion system shows its flexibility, working well in water, air, or even in the vacuum of space, all by following the same basic principle. What do you think? Are spacecraft really using our oceans for fuel? Like, comment, and subscribe for more.